right, welcome to the third review of the evening, One-Eyed Lee and the Dinner Party. Baracus and Lee have finally found a lead to more information about a potential cure for Baracus' suffering village. Upon finding the entrance to apparently abandoned bunker, the two become trapped inside and discover the place is inhabited by a family of hospitable cult members who happen to be skeletons. The family mistakes the two of them for fellow members and invite them to stay for the party and wait for the new world. Unfortunately, Lee and Baracus don't have that kind of time. They will also meet their deaths down there if they don't escape. And they still have to find their all-important cure. Together, they must explore and talk to the skeleton family to discover clues, collect items, and try to unravel tragedies that turn the simple bunker into a tomb. Right. So this is a point-and-click adventure game that we got the Switch version of. So over to the Galax for the skinny.
Okay, so there's no voice acting. And I didn't play with the mute sound up very much because there wasn't... I was doing other stuff at the same time too, but, sorry. I don't have much to say on that. The controls were pretty good for this kind of thing, with a couple of exceptions. The B button brings up your log of previous dialogue, and that's always slightly slow. So, like, if you accidentally hit the B button to try to cancel out of something, it'll do that. So not sure how I feel about that versus playing it on a computer. Unlike a lot of the visual novels we do, this one does have internal tracking of achievements, so it's probably worth actually, if you want to play it, trying to play it over to get more of the endings, because it will actually keep track of it. It's fairly short. I was able to play through to the final challenge, but I had fucked up early on. Not too early on, about 2/3 of the way through, I think, and accidentally made it impossible to win the final challenge. So I did not actually get to the end, and it actually did a thing that I'm not sure if it's 100% intentional or if it was just partially a coincidence. I think it was 100% intentional. Partway through the thing, the software has experienced an error and had to close, and then when I reloaded it, it had a different title screen, referencing what was going on in the game at that time. So that's why I think it was intentional and not an error. You know, like how Undertale Force quits you out.
Yeah.
Or Doki Doki Literature Club or whatever.
Yeah.
So that happened. By that point in the story, there's a lot of stuff that is not properly explained, but there is a prologue. Well, first off, a lot of what is explained kind of right before the end, and there's a prologue that I haven't got to that probably explains some more of it. So I can't say too much, and I'll try not to spoil too many specifics, but heading back to the top, yes, you're playing mostly as Baracus. Lee is with you. Your entire village is, except for Baracus, is inflicted by some sort of condition that alters people's appearances and also personalities. As you can see, Lee does indeed only have one eye left on his face because there's a thing of greenish blue scales over his other eye that goes around and makes his ear long. He also has one of his hands is blue and scaly and has an eye in the palm of it or something that lets him see through things by touching them, which comes in handy. So yes, they're looking for clues and possibly valuables, and they fall into this bunker and are greeted by the family of mother, father, two daughters, and a butler of skeletons who apparently in their previous lives were useless nobility, and some of them are kind of jerks still. That they say they were brought here by another guy to wait out the end of the world, basically, and to rule the new world. But obviously, they've died. And our two characters who remain alive, need to get out because if nothing else kills them, they definitely need food, and skeletons don't.
Mm-hmm.
So to do this, you have to investigate various objects. I was stuck for a long time. I had to check a guide, and the guide sort of spoiled, quote unquote. There are 2 or 3 of the puzzles in this game are you have to enter numbers or words in with the Switch keyboard or a computer keyboard if you're playing a different version of it. The guide spoiled the answers to those before I found the actual clues, so I wasn't sure how you're supposed to find those. But it turns out that I was just behind because there was one very small object on one screen that I hadn't clicked on that gives you information that lets you unlock like 3 more social things, because a lot of it involves talking to the skeletons and getting them to tell you stuff, or like you have to do stuff for the 2 daughters to get them to make stuff available, either to help each other or to help figure stuff out. And ultimately, you can fairly early find what's pretty obviously the door out. But most of the rest of it is spent like trying to figure out how to open the cover to that door, because it's very complicated, and obviously no one here is particularly inclined to help you because they're all just waiting for it to open naturally so they can emerge. And yes, part of Lee's condition makes him super impulsive, so you have to not let him get killed by doing dumb shit. Although there are achievements for letting him die by doing dumb shit, and you get the option to, no, I won't let it end like that afterwards. So that isn't a point of no return. The thing I fucked up is that there is one thing that you can find fairly early that you need to do, and there are multiple possible tools that you can use to do it. And if you use the wrong one, it will get broken and you won't be able to use it for something else later. But other than that, a lot of stuff is kind of linear for this kind of thing. Like, there are a lot of objects that you need to pick up that you can't pick up until you find out from something else that you need to pick it up, which can add to the amount of time you spend running back and forth. Luckily, though it's incredibly possible, I would probably say easy to miss. The first thing you do when you meet the skeletons is one of the daughters gives you a map, which is on your Y button, and in addition to showing you the layout of the thing, which is relevant because while all the navigation between the fairly few rooms is done by arrows on the screen, you can't always get to the room that's right next to the room you're in by going that direction if there's a wall that way. But the map you get lets you fast travel to any screen in the game. Well, any screen in the main part of the game. The end game is in a different area. Sort of. It's behind a door that's hidden. So overall, the characters and setting are pretty interesting. It feels like it's probably some kind of post-apocalyptic or something. The characters talk pretty modern. The skeleton family talks like evangelical end-of-the-world cultists of some sort. So it's kind of hard to place in terms of like post-apocalyptic makes the most sense to me for this being kind of a there are still some modern trappings and stuff, but in a lot of ways it's fantasy, and Lee's outfit looks kind of medieval and stuff. I don't know. Clearly, Barracus and Lee have a pretty close relationship, and I feel like that's part of the thing. But I don't know if it's supposed to be interpreted as romantic or anything. It seems like it could be. I don't know. Is there any glaring omissions to what I'm saying? I'm trying to think back to my experience of playing through the game.
Doesn't seem like it.
Not that I can think of.
Patty, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Eddie?
Hello?
Hell, you're barely audible to me in my headset now.
Yeah.
Any better?
A little bit.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, overall, it's short but interesting. A little bit frustrating if you neglect to click on something that lets you open up certain dialogue trees that make you get, pretty stalled early on. But I might try and play through it again to see if I can fit it. It only takes, even with that, I think I still got to the end in 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
So yeah, what's the price wise, Adam?
$5. And
for $5, I think I'd say if the subject, obviously, because this is a dialogue leaning adventure game, I would say that for $5 it's a good deal if it appeals to you.
Yeah, and that is across all platforms. There is DLC on the Steam version. It's your standard soundtrack art book thing, $1.99, $2.99 respectively. So $4.99.
I'm curious about the art book if it has interesting concept art, but we'll see. And I'm sorry I didn't pay much attention to the audio.
Duly noted. Right. So anything else to say on One-Eyed Lee here?
Not really. I kind of felt a little bit bad for the characters at some point because you have to be kind of mean a couple times, particularly to the skeletons, to get stuff to happen, but I guess that kind of makes sense.
Uh-huh.
I guess that's about all I got.
Yeah. All right, that'll about do it for One-Eyed Lee and the dinner party here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as we'll be covering 200 Ways.